Hello, everybody. Once again, welcome to Excelsior Capital Partners, the Rising Series podcast. Today, my guest is Paul Gill, who I've gotten to know through many conferences that I think all of you know that I attend. Paul is really a serial entrepreneur in the metals and mining area. And actually, I should let him introduce himself because he can do a better bio than I can. So go ahead, Paul.
Thanks, Jim. I would hate to have someone go through my LinkedIn or Google search me and then find all this other stuff that I've been doing. But I've been involved in mining for about 20 years now, and really got a good start in the early days when copper was 70 cents and
Mhm.
gold was, $300. I can't imagine that, looking back, that I had picked such a great area to be in, because we've seen such a big increase, a 10x move on a lot of these commodities that are there. So I started, kind of forming a company called Norsemont Mining back then in 2004, and we had some great success with it. We ended up developing a project in Peru called Constancia, handed over that project to Hudbay, which is built it, and it's
Sure.
now a functioning mine. So we really thought that was great. And then more recently, we've worked with Lamico Metals, which has also received a grant from the Department of Defense, which is now the Department of War, of course.
Before, yeah.
But no, the concept is, that was a graphite project that is developing nicely. Um, has a lot of good comparables, such as Newfoundland. So Lamico Metals is a small cap, still under 10 million. But in the last little while, really had success in getting involved in the mining sector in various different stages. And the key to it for me is really understanding that the demand is there. Gold
Sure.
and copper
Yeah.
demand is there. So right now, I just left a year or so ago. I left Andina Copper, which is doing very, very well, um, and started with Triple One Metals and with Edison Lithium. So would love to talk a bit about Triple One Metals, which is really under the radar.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's a great place to start. And I should say that uh, most of the people who watch these podcasts like to do their own homework, which I encourage. So Triple One Metals is the number one metals.com. And obviously all the things that Paul will discuss, their investor deck, all those sorts of things are on that website. So you should probably check that out. But now Paul will explain why it's an attractive company and the Caledonia Brook project. And if you could just give us the 30,000 foot view, Paul, to start.
Yeah, I really get involved myself in companies as a director and a CEO when I feel that it's really undervalued and has great potential. So we got involved in Triple One a few years ago, and have been looking for developments in that particular area, Newfoundland, which is
Okay.
well known for some high grade material. There's a big company called Newfound Gold out there. The Valentine mine, which is a long strike of Triple One, is was recently bought by Equinox
Yeah.
from a company called Caliber. So Equinox is a big producer. So we're really excited about this trend that we're on. And just recently, we had another company called Pirate Gold, which
That's
bought.
good, man.
Yeah, it's an interesting site, and I like their tact on things. Their symbol is YAR,
Okay.
YAR in Canada, which is, I think, hilarious. But a good group, really active, and they've drilled quite a lot along the lines of Triple One Metals, and
Yeah.
completely surrounded us on the ground. So they've had a gold discovery to the northeast and a copper discovery to the southwest. So we're really looking forward to doing some exploration on our ground. and getting some attention and eyes on it. And
Okay.
Triple One trades in Canada under the symbol TONE. And as you said before, it's the number one metals.com.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I should have given the symbol before, but one of the things, as Paul knows, that we always do as securities analysts is comps, so comparable company analysis. So it would seem in this case that Equinox and their Valentine project is the best comp for what you have at Triple One Metals and Caledonia Brook. Is that the case? And that is, if I'm not mistaken, they're actually producing now. Equinox is.
Yeah, they are. And of course, Equinox has many other assets as well.
Sure.
It's a multifaceted company. So I wouldn't say that they're the best comparable for us because they're so far developed. But for potential on the ground, I mean, really, at the end of the day, no one knew what was underneath Valentine Mine until someone developed it.
Sure.
And by the same token, no one knows what's under the Triple One Caledonia project until we drill. And that's what we are hoping to accomplish in the next little while. So I would say Pirate Gold is a good comparable. They have land exactly where we are. It's a speculative play as well, but they've got some rational speculation going on because they've done a lot of drilling. And to the same extent, our only, I guess, interesting aspect to Triple One is that we're a long trend that
Sure.
they've already drilled. So assumptions are, and of course you have to drill and explore to prove the assumptions, is that the trend line continues all the way from the Equinox mine all the way to Pirate Gold and through
Okay.
Pirate Gold to Triple One and then up to their other property, which is called Moosehead. So they have actually two projects around us. So we're really interested in the kind of development that they're doing. It helps us in getting exposure. So that's what we're doing out there, talking about our company now and looking to develop.
And I think that most of the viewers will know, but mining certainly has a kind of a lexicon all of its own. And you start talking about these projects and the time it takes to actually go from beginning to actual development of the resource. So maybe, Paul, you can just give us a sort of background and all these sorts of terms, the pre-fees, the PEA, all those things. Where does Triple One Metals sit in that timeline? And the second part would be how much capital will you need, which is always the most important question, to do the development.
Yeah, great questions because that's exactly it. This is not, a short-term investment. What we're looking at here is a company that is trading in a micro cap state right now, but that also gives investors opportunity. So if we use an example of Norsemont mining, the discovery happened in Norsemont back in 2004 and then developed and raised went from 5 cents to $4
Wow.
in 2020 2004 and then back down and then we raised for more money and did extensive drilling in Peru and by 2011 we had sold that company to Hudbay. They took another few years to develop it, but now Hudbay is getting loads of cash, and their background funder who bought the net smelter return, Wheaton Precious Metals, is also getting a big chunk of cash. So, I mean, it was
Yeah.
such a wealth creation event. I mean, that's why I'm involved. This is not safe money, and
Right.
it's risky.
Okay.
Let's
Yeah.
make sure we all understand that.
Okay.
Don't invest more than you can afford to lose in these companies, but the returns can be really astonishing. So you don't have to invest a lot to get a great return. I mean, when you look at Norsemont Mining, essentially that was a 9,000% return
Wow.
over 10 years, and or no, sorry, over 7 years.
The
And
2004
so
to 2011. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's what we look for. We look for I look for opportunities in which there's real undervalued uh, uh, projects here with and companies with a huge potential. And I think we've got one. We've got a tiger by the tail here, and so I'm really excited to get out there and drill. We will need $1 million at least just for the first drilling
Okay.
campaign. But then when you look at development, I mean, it's a big undertaking. So,
Of
what
course.
we're doing is taking it to the next level of, as I said, resource definition, which means drilling into the ground and finding where the gold sits, developing an idea of the type of mineralization it is and whether it is mineable, because those are all the big risks. Then you have to go to what's called a pre-economic assessment, which gives
Yeah.
you a good idea of what's going on and more definition. And then you just continue to drill out that resource and really get an idea and develop what's called a block model and a pre-feasibility study. And at that point then you're ready to ramp it up and talk about the costs of actually of extracting and all of that, and develop an internal return
Sure.
estimate.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the IRR. So I
IRR.
mean, so we're very far away from that. There's no qualms about that. But the most of the action, I guess you might say, and I'm Canadian, so I have to say the hockey stick moment of going from the flat part of the hockey stick um, to the upper right corner. That happens at in companies that are our stage. So it's a
Okay.
really good opportunity for people to take a flyer. As I said, do not invest more than you can lose, and always consult an investment advisor like Jim here.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for the plug. But in terms of, is this the kind of thing where you can take, I'm so used to oil and gas, but where they can take results, and usually they used to have a guy like me doing this, now it's AI, but they can take results from properties that are contiguous or near contiguous and really tell what's down there. Is it for triple one? Do you have that opportunity from looking at the comparable companies, or kind of what gives you the confidence that it has the resource to justify the capital expenditure?
Yeah, I think we've done initial sort of sampling in the area, which
Okay.
brought back some significant gold and copper results. We have our neighbors on either side of us, are the same company that has properties on either side of us that are drilling away and producing results. And the big thing is geophysical surveys. I mean, without having to touch the ground, you can do surveys that will show you the movement of particular metals, or in fact the
Okay.
polarization of the metals. So it'll give you something that will show a heat map of conductivity. And of course,
Okay.
copper and gold are very conductive.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's what would really help in discerning where to drill and what to drill. So we've already done some of that and identified about 12 drill holes.
Okay.
So we're advanced in that regard, but really, I think our issue was waiting for some assurity that there is a lot going on there, and our neighbors at Pirate Gold have proven that to us. So it looks like it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, and I would imagine that also as a publicly listed company, ticker symbol YAR, right? Pirate Gold, you are able to go through their CDAR filings or whatever and see exactly what they have.
Yeah, they do news releases and there's several news releases on their side, which we'll also be reviewing very carefully. Of course, there's the big important thing is these properties are huge. I mean, they're
Yeah.
5,000 hectares and all of that. But really, when you come down to an actual mine, it's usually only about 150 to 200 hectares in size. So, you're looking for that needle in a haystack to some extent. So this really, some of the information that's out there, geophysics, induced polarization, conductivity tests, they all sort of help you pinpoint where to look, but you got to drill. And that's the real truth um, of this business is
Sure.
drilling to find that a result at the end of the drill bit, right?
Yeah. And I think that, for those of us south of the border, we probably don't pay as much attention to what used to be called, I guess, the Maritimes, now Atlantic Canada. So maybe, Paul, you could just give us a 1 or 2 minute brief history of Newfoundland as a resource base, especially in gold, and how developed that is, which obviously would be an advantage for 111 metals because you have skilled workforce and takeaway and highways and all those things.
Yeah, Newfoundland has really exploded in the last 5 years.
Okay.
One of the big things that happened was the discovery of gold by Newfound Gold, and they've spent quite a bit of money to develop their projects, and they're actually in production now. There's other groups in that area, such as I mentioned, Equinox, that are buying mines. So I would anticipate that this is an area with massive, massive opportunity, and it has been overlooked to some extent because it is very difficult terrain that we're dealing with.
Hmm.
In summers, we're dealing with boggy areas
Okay.
that are difficult to traverse, and then in in winter, you're dealing with pretty
Listen.
high snowfalls, and so which is great for us. We're used to it. Our geologist Paul Smith is from Nova Scotia, just down the road,
Okay.
and is got an extensive background in Newfoundland. So we're really leaning on his expertise on how things will go, and he's done the plan. So it's not something that's on the back of a napkin. We've been planning
Right.
this for a
Right.
while,
Yeah.
uh, and we're really excited. I mean, this is you wait for a good opportunity. This company has done nothing for the last 2.5 years, and I know shareholders are saying what's going on, but you have to wait for the right timing in this
Sure.
industry, and it's here now, and so we're pressing the buttons and getting the whole machine going.
And as far as 111 as an entity and under the symbol tone, maybe, Paul, you could just go very briefly. This would all be, or this is all in their investor deck, but maybe you can just go very briefly through the capital structure and how it's set up now, the cap table.
Yeah, trading at about 3.5 cents Canadian. It's got 118 million shares out, 128 million fully diluted. So it's a fairly small market cap structure, and we've been most of the people who've invested are insiders and related parties. So we're very strong in that respect, and no one was worried about waiting it out and finding the right opportunity. So I think we're in a good spot in that regard. We have strong shareholders who are going to support the company as it goes forward, and we like to attract other capital who would help
Yeah.
take this journey with us. So definitely on that track.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that we've had here, especially here in the States, so many SPACs, D-SPACs, and all these sort of end arounds, if you will, in terms of actually having a publicly listed company. So I get pitched probably twice a week by somebody saying, we have a robust shell, and 20 minutes later, I will tell that person that you just spent the last 20 minutes explaining to me why your shell is not robust. But um, that's why Excelsior is Excelsior. So But again, I think that that's very important, and I would send investors again to triple1metals.com and to see that what Paul's doing and that they're current with all their filings and all those things that are not unimportant.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're happy to take phone calls as well, and
Great.
have contact sheet there. And certainly, you could find me on LinkedIn as well, Amrit Paul Gill, which is my full LinkedIn connection. Always have to verify your identity, so I'm putting
Yeah.
my full name out there. But now everyone knows who I am. I'm not hiding anywhere, right? So.
Excellent. And that's, yeah, it's a very interesting story. So maybe now we should segue into Edison Lithium. And that is, as again, anybody who watches these videos knows, I go to Latin America, specifically South America, every 2 months or so. And I'll be in Brazil again next week. And so what's interesting to me is that Edison somehow, and Paul will explain how, managed to get a brine lithium project, which is in what's called in Espanol salares, so these salt lakes that are dry. Whereas everything else, virtually everything else I'm being pitched is hard rock lithium, which they do have in Brazil, which is spodumene. But in terms of Edison, maybe Paul, you could go through, I think it's the two prospects you have, and how you ended up getting them in Argentina.
Yeah, essentially, it was a networking situation. It was a previous management group that put together the package with boots on the ground in Argentina, and we have two pretty significant packages in that area, and the brine market, and I guess the general lithium market has kind of trickled down a little bit, prices and activity of, but it doesn't mean people aren't looking to acquire, and so we're holding on to those projects right now, just to ensure that we can develop them in the future, or in fact work with a company that will develop them. That's a neighbor on those solars, so we're really active there. But that's not all that there is in Edison Lithium.
Okay.
We also have an interesting, uh, and of course, everyone. I don't have to explain to everyone that lithium-ion batteries are a big deal nowadays,
Yes.
and there's
Yeah.
lots being developed. So that's a fairly good situation. The other projects, we have a cobalt project
Wow.
in Ontario, in a town, close to a town aptly named Cobalt.
Okay.
Um,
That's
so
easy.
there might be a hint as to whether there's cobalt there, and we haven't done a lot on that. It's just maintenance, care and maintenance right now, but eventually people will need that product. And then in addition to that, we also have two other projects. One is a sodium hydroxide
Wow.
um,
Okay.
sort of extraction concept that's in Saskatchewan, and this is a business that has been operating. There's businesses that have been operating, doing extraction and creating sodium hydroxide from sodium sulfate, and their lakes there are just brimmed with
Mm,
them, and they keep reoccurring because of the geology and the rocks that are underneath the lakes.
sure.
You see this material come up, so it's almost a renewable resource. Interestingly enough, and of course, the exciting part of sodium hydroxide is there's a new concept around a sodium ion
Ion
battery
battery. Sure. Yeah.
that's really interesting and exciting, and we want to be part of that. And part of what we're doing is to make sure that when we approach in Edison, when we approach company investors, that they always have something to hang their hat on
Right.
in the various projects. And with Triple One, there's really just a gold project in there right now.
Yep.
But with Edison, there's a lot more value in, and the company has a lot more opportunity. Interestingly, right now we are in the midst of a acquisition of a gold project for
Mm,
Edison
Interesting.
in the very prospective area of northern Quebec that's all called the Casa Berardi Trend.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
so so you'll be familiar with it because there's
Excellent.
the
Yeah.
Cadillac trend. Cadillac trend is massive, um, and um, and we're seeing lots of companies develop along that line. Alamos Gold. We have companies like Formation Metals that are developing well along that trend, and we are at the westernmost end of that
Hmm.
trend, and we're right beside a company called Maple Gold. And Maple Gold has, it's trading at $3 Canadian, has well developed programs in place, and we basically share I think a 3 kilometer border with them, and it's
Interesting.
an interesting area there. So this is also an area where there's an old copper and gold mine that ran in the 30s and 40s and was shut down. And so that metal wasn't completely extracted. So we're
Yeah.
looking for development of that area as well. So that gives another feather in the cap for Edison. It's a real value packed company.
Yeah, it would seem so. And one of the ones that I've talked about that anybody who reads my newsletter or watches these um, videos is Hecla Mining. So, which is HL, and I mean they've really attempted to brand themselves as just silver, but they had a very large position in the Casa Berardi. So um, that was they made a decent return on that. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have neighbors who are well known. And
Yeah. The other company that's doing well there is Globex
okay.
Mining. And these are prospect generator models. So they don't explore and do deep drilling in all of those areas. But what they do is they're preparing the company geologically for exploration, which is amazing. I mean, they're collecting all the old data. I
Hmm.
mean, so that's a real value add. And then drilling companies like ourselves that take the chance to drill are supported by this great foundation of information. And of course,
Yep.
as you know, information is the real gold when you're looking for gold. I mean, you want to make sure you drill in the right spot and have a good idea where mineralization lies. Although I would say that along the Casa Berardi trend, what you're seeing is lots of gold mineralization, but in the 1 or 2 grams per ton. But they're massive deposits, so
Okay.
that's really advantageous.
And then we're bumping up on the half hour here, but I think what Paul just alluded to is the question that I have to ask every CEO now, and investors are asking me every day is how does AI help that? So if you're looking at something, for instance, Casa Berardi, that hasn't been, I mean, there are other players there, but you're looking at a particular prospect that hasn't been um, exploited for decades. Does AI make the sort of information processing there much more efficient? And how much do you use it on a daily basis, over and above ChatGPT, right, which we all use? But
Yeah, there's really some interesting opportunities in AI for these particular companies. And one of them, for instance, that we're contemplating right now is a satellite imaging
hmm,
technology
interesting.
that will use AI after collecting information. So they will collate a number of different information sets, um, you know, uh, sampling of ground. Um, soils and stuff
Oh,
like
very
that.
cool.
The looking at the induced polarization and geophysics that I mentioned before,
Wow.
magnetic surveys, and all of this determines where the flow of the material is and where the material is in essence or could be. So it creates
And you can see that from a satellite image, or obviously.
no, no, you can't always, you can't see it from a satellite image, but the satellite will detect certain trends.
Okay.
And if you use that carefully with other information, you can really vet and confirm the information you're collecting, and that's the
Very cool.
important part. And that's where AI, I think, will come in handy because really, in bygone years, they were really translating and reprinting by hand
Oh yeah.
all of the drill logs and all of
Yep.
this other stuff. So there's mistakes that have been made, or they couldn't see the trend, and that's what AI, I think, is going to be very useful for. You can see the trend of the mineralization, and the Casa Berardi is an example of that. This is going to be a rich area
Yeah.
down below, and in the Cadillac trend, the and other portions of uh, of Quebec. You've seen these massive gold mines. Goldfields
Sure.
came in and bought out Cisco, and it was a massive deal. So we're again, we want to be at the sharp end of that exploration, and that's where you get the really big discoveries. A lot of people stick with, oh well, we'll just redevelop something that's already existing,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a
and
classic. Yeah.
we'll build upon it, which is a fair model. But the discovery aspect, that's the exciting part. That's what really gets investors in Canada and institutional investors excited,
Yeah.
is when there's a new discovery, because that can open up a lot more value creation.
Yeah. No, this is great. I can talk about this all day, as Paul knows, and we have done, I think, at several conference cocktail parties, but Paul is very busy. So um, I should wrap it up there. And so again, triple one metals, um, these are both CSE listed, Paul, is that correct?
Triple One is
Yeah.
CSE
So that's
listed, which is
TONE.
yeah, it's a little bit more difficult for people to pick up, but it's certainly possible. TONE is a symbol. TSX, the Edison Lithium, is listed on the TSX Venture, which is easier,
Okay.
and its
Eddie,
symbol is EDDY. Yeah,
EDDY.
friendly. Yeah,
Okay. So
EDDY. So it's a
TSX-V
friend.
for Edison and CSE for triple one metals.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And who doesn't like an Eddy? He's a good guy.
That's right. Anyway, thanks, Paul. Geez, this has been great. I mean, again, as I said, we can do this all day, but we won't. But hopefully, we'll have you back on again soon.
Sure.
And best of luck with everything. Great to see you again. Thank you for your
Yeah.
time.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate the call. Take care.
Okay. Thank you.